Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I've got 10 dribbling exercises to improve your close control. For these exercises, I'm using 7 cones, each of them placed 1 step apart. If you don't have cones, you can use water bottles, rolled up pairs of socks, anything you have lying around the house. You can make the gaps between the cones wider or narrower, and you can also use more or less cones, completely up to you. Before we get into the first exercise, I want to say a huge thank you to OneFootball for sponsoring this video. OneFootball is a free football app that you can download onto your smart device to keep you fully up to date in the world of football through news, live scores, transfer rumors, and even match highlights. I've been using this app for a few years now to keep up to date with my favorite teams, leagues, and players. So download the OneFootball app today. Link's going to be in the description. For the first exercise, we're involving the sole and outside of both feet. So you're pushing the ball between the gaps 45 degrees using the outside of one foot, and you place that same foot on top of the ball, stopping it with the sole, then you exchange feet and push it with the outside of the opposite foot. This is a great exercise for working on your deceptiveness. Being able to stop the ball abruptly and change direction with it is going to help you unbalance defenders so you can escape on the opposite side. For all of these exercises, I'd recommend going to the end of the cones and back and repeating them 5 times. For the second exercise, we're using the inside of our feet only. So this is a great exercise for developing your La Croquetas, which is shifting the ball between the inside of our feet to get around the defender's feet. So what we're doing here is we're pushing the ball from one side of the body to the other, stopping the ball, and then we're performing the same movement in the opposite direction, but on the next one, we're pushing the ball forwards. So we're cross and stop, then across and forwards. So as you can see here, I'm pushing the ball from left to right on the way up, and once I get to the top of the cones, I'm going back in the opposite direction, this time pushing the ball from right to left. And then it's my right foot that pushes the ball forward until I get back to the start. Once again, 5 repetitions, there and back. For exercise 3, we're using the sole and outside of each foot individually. So we roll the ball between the gap, and then we push the ball through the next gap with the outside of that same foot. Once we get to the top of the cones, we can then repeat in the opposite direction, switching feet each time. So if you go from the beginning to the end with your right foot, go from the end to the beginning with your left. Just like the previous exercises, go for 5 repetitions there and back. Exercise 4 is similar to exercise 3, but this time we're exchanging feet and using the inside of the foot. So we're rolling the ball between the gap, then our next touch we're exchanging feet and pushing it through the next gap with the inside of the opposite foot. So as you can see on the way up here, I'm rolling it with my right foot, pushing it through the gap with my left, and then when I go back to the start, I'm rolling it with my left foot and pushing it with the inside of my foot between the gaps. For the 5th exercise, we're using the sole and inside of both feet this time to get through the cones. So we perform a little La Croqueta movement on the outside of the cones, and then we roll the ball through. So it's from one foot to the other, roll it through the cones, and then when we get to the next gap, it's another La Croqueta and we roll it through with the opposite foot. Once again with this exercise, go for 5 repetitions there and back. For the 6th exercise, we're working on a reverse elastico movement. So we're pushing the ball with the inside of one foot, exchanging to the outside of that same foot to change direction of the ball, and then we're going to put a foot on top of the ball with that same foot to stop it so we can go in the opposite direction. The key with this one is to minimize the time between that inside and outside touch so you can really make it deceptive, changing direction of the ball at the very last second, and also dropping your knee, dropping your shoulder to make the movement even more deceptive. For this one, once again, go for 5 repetitions there and back. For exercise 7, we're shifting the ball from the inside of one foot to the other, and then we're taking a third touch with the outside of the same foot we took the second touch with. So it's a quick lacquer keta, and then we're taking a third touch on that same foot to push the ball through the gap with the outside of that foot. So it's a shift from one foot to the other, outside of the foot, shift again, and then outside of the foot through the cones until we get all the way up to the end of the cones and all the way back to the beginning. Then we're going to repeat this one 5 times. In exercise 8, we're working on our step overs. So we're throwing our foot around the front of the ball, stepping around it, making sure we've got a slight bend in the knee to lower our center of gravity so we can protect the ball and be more agile with our movements. And then as we throw our foot around the ball, we're going to push off the ground with that same foot we stepped over with, so we can push the ball with the outside of the opposite foot through the gaps of the cones. So as you can see here, step over around, and it's the outside of the opposite foot, making sure we're keeping the ball close to our body, stopping it with the sole, and then repeating in the opposite direction. For exercise 9, we push it forward with the inside of our foot, roll it across the front of the cone using the sole of that same foot, then we drag it back with the sole of the opposite foot, push it to the inside with that same foot once again, and then we repeat until we've gotten around all of the cones in front of us. Once we get to the opposite side of the cones, we're going to go in the opposite direction. So if you started by pushing the ball down the left side of the cone on the way up, you're going to push it down the right side of the cones on the way back. Really working on your close control using the sole and inside of both feet. For exercise 10, we're working on our V-cuts. So we start by placing our foot on top of the ball, dragging it back towards us 45 degrees, opening up our body and opening out our hips so we can push the ball with the inside of that same foot to the opposite side of the cone. Then we're going to place our foot on top of the ball once again, drag it back towards us and exchange feet and push it with the inside of the foot back to the starting point. Then we're going to repeat this pattern until we get to the opposite side of the cones. Then we're going to go back to the start, but using the opposite feet this time. So instead of dragging it back towards us with the right foot as we did on the way up, we're going to drag it back towards us with the left foot so that we're getting an equal amount of reps on both variations of V-cuts with both feet. So there we go guys, 10 more exercises you can use to improve your close control dribbling. And if you want more exercises similar to these, I've also got over 30 in another video, which I'll put a link to on the screen right now. And you can also check out my very own 7-day close control dribbling program, Magnetico. I'm going to put a link to that in the description box below. But if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you smash the like button, hit that subscribe button for weekly training videos, and I will see you guys in my next video.